Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Breaking Through the Wall, a podcast presented by SERVPRO Team Wall. This is our 11th episode of the pod, and we are thrilled to be joined by a man today who has taken the restoration world by storm with his innovative ideas and technology. Our guest today is the CEO of Magicplan, an application that many in the restoration space and, of course, the SERVPRO world are very, very familiar with. Very excited to dive in today, learn more about Magicplan, his history, how he got started in tech and with apps here. Everyone, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guest today, Andreas Böhm. Andreas, how are we doing?
Hey, thank you, Brandon. Doing good. Really excited to kind of be a participant among such distinguished guests that you have on your pod.
That's right. Well, we're excited, very excited to have you. Usually we just jump right in. So let's jump in. For people that may not know what Magicplan is, that are not familiar with it, can you give just a brief explanation or non-brief, we've got time today, about what it is and how users do use it out in the field?
Okay, good. Sure. So with Magicplan, what are we doing? We are really trying to kind of like capture that moment when someone comes on site, because I think this is really when you get an understanding of the job, right? And instantly your mind starts, okay, I see this, and this. And with Magicplan, we want to support you in that moment and help you to kind of bring structure to all of those thoughts that you have, because we think it's really important further down the line. So how does that translate? Basically, with Magicplan, you can do a kind of show and tell of the property, and it then captures everything that basically you see. Hey, how big is this space? Hey, what do I observe? I mean, do I see any damages? And so on and so forth. And we really kind of give you the chance to dump all of your thoughts that you have on that initial visit, so that kind of down the line, you can run a really efficient project. You have everything. You don't need to go back. You don't need to remember stuff because it's already in there. At the same time, help you kind of like run a scope, run an estimate, because you've captured the space, you have the dimensions, you don't need to do any takeoff anymore. It's all there. And that is really what we want to do. We want to support you kind of like out there in the field to then kind of worry less later down the line.
Absolutely. Our own little sidekick while we're out in the field to make things happen a little bit easier. No, that's awesome. And I know here at SERVPRO Team Wall, we're obviously avid users and big fans of it. So we thank you for that. So that's cool. And I like to at least get that out of the way, so that way people understand kind of what we're talking about. But more about you, let's jump into kind of how you got into this industry. So let's kind of back it up to when you get into your professional career, like when you jump into your first kind of role in your professional world. Are you in construction, restoration, technology, or what do you do first, and what's the kind of the steps that got you to the beginning stages of your career?
Yeah. So, I mean, on this one, I'm a car guy.
Okay.
I've been since kind of pre-teen years. So, I mean, when people ask me today what keeps me busy, I say it's 3 companies, 4 kids, and too many cars. That really tells you a lot about me. And this is how I started professionally. I mean, I had the luck that 2 days after graduating from high school, I started an internship at Porsche at their production plant in Leipzig. And that really kind of kicked off my trajectory. So studying with Porsche, later down Audi. So this was kind of like my formative years. I'm a trained engineer. And I kind of grew up in the German automotive industry, and this is, what kind of was close to my heart early on, and still is, but it's not my profession anymore. So, kind of, how did that shift and change? At one point, before Christmas, by the time I was working in London, actually as a consultant, my dad called me and said, hey, I could fulfill my biggest live stream, but that would entail kind of you coming back to Germany and joining our family business. which was, okay, well, I'm currently living in London. I've worked in the automotive industry, been into consulting. So going back home to Germany, joining the family business was kind of a big shift, but something that, to be honest, I was prepared for. I was just not sure when that would happen. And so what is our family business back in Germany? We are basically a construction company, a general contractor, but we're doing anything from repair and maintenance to multifamily residential new builds. And yeah, that was kind of like my shift. I then said, well, okay, let's do that. And I got kind of like sent into this doing restoration and rehab work, right? So back in Germany, I joined the project managers of the family business, and they made me run projects. And that is how kind of like my shift in career came, and why I am doing what I'm doing now. Because instantly in that moment, I was, okay, coming off that automotive industry, kind of like everything structured to the last degree. I always tell this story, like in Leipzig, at the production facility of Porsche, where they do the Cayenne SUVs, like the last step is putting on the wheels. But it's not just putting on the wheels. You have a screen there with kind of like each of the wheel nuts in red. And only if you have the torque driver kind of doing it at the correct torque, it turns green. So the simplest of tasks you can do is kind of assisted with a screen and a connected device. And like this was my understanding of how things should run. And we all know that this is not how construction works and restoration works, right? So that was kind of the cliff I came from, then being a project manager. So that is kind of 13 years back now. And I instantly start buying a tripod, and at the time buying GoPro cameras. Because that would give me kind of like wide angle pictures of the construction sites. And that was the best I could get at the time. Because I wanted to have a way to kind of like draw that site information. Just as I said, what we're doing today, I wanted to capture that information and somehow have it usable in my device. Again, iPad user since the very first generation. I was using GoodNotes. Some of you know that during my studies. And that was me, right? At the time when I was entering this family business, I was trying to bring technology there to solve our own issues. And I'm pausing here for a second because I can go on forever. But
no, it's very interesting, and to like understand kind of, because you're kind of getting to the point where you're kind of talking about where the ideas start to come from. So you're obviously doing this, you're going to job sites, you're trying to document, obviously, all that. You're using GoPros, your iPad, all these things. Does it kind of at some point just hit you in your mind here that like, there's got to be something better? There's got to be something else that we can do that to document this and grab all this information, and to have it in a safe place that you can go back to and kind of pull those ideas from. So, and I want to make sure I get this right, so you can explain it just based on like my reading and understanding of the company. So Magicplan is already an application, correct? When you're doing, okay. So that's already, so Magicplan is a thing. It is an application. It's working. So are you using Magicplan when you're doing this at that point?
Yeah. So, I mean, then I start with my devices and I think, okay, we need to do that. Just as you said, we need to somehow get a better way of capturing what we observe and then kind of like feeding it into a pipeline that we can use also kind of computer enhanced. And then I basically end up back in London doing apartment renovations there when someone just introduces me to Magicplan. And this was really my kind of epiphany, because I said, well, this is exactly what I need. I have a tool on my device that I anyway carry with me, my iPad in that case, which I can measure the space, take pictures, and note down the scope. And that was kind of like one of my pain points at the time, where I said, I want to have that done and in a kind of like good way so that I can use it downstream. So instantly I say, wow, this is big. And like even more so, that was the early 2010s. Like everyone was talking about Airbnb, Uber, digital, destroying everything or whatever, shaking everything up. So I was like, to be honest, also, this has the potential to threaten us as a family business, right? What were we at the time? I said, well, we're doing managing jobs and like, oh, maybe the computer can someday manage the jobs or the platform or whatnot. So right. I was like happy to find the technology, but at the same time, I was also thinking about, okay, kind of how do we keep up? And yeah, that basically led me to, first of all, introduce the tool to my teams. So I was doing what I was doing actually yesterday on the day we are recording this. I was with some of the SERVPRO team wall team members and did a training with them and our colleague Kyle. And that is what I did 13 years back. I was basically buying iPads, buying lasers, and seeing my project managers, introducing them to this tool just as a user. But back then it started with them kind of like introducing them to email and making an iTunes account. That is kind of how past that is.
Sure.
So we started using Magicplan as a company in Germany. And I introduced it to them, and basically I backed off a bit. I just like did my trainings, and then that was it for the time being. And a year later, I looked back and I saw that they had documented almost every single job they'd done. And that really gave me the confidence of saying, okay, this is accessible to the people, right? I don't have to worry about, because, I mean, again, like at the day, people were asking, well, is this really for everybody? But whatnot. So there was some caution or anxiety around it, but I saw that like literally everyone from the very young project manager to established guys that have been doing this for 30 years, they really liked it and picked it up. So that basically then gave me the confidence and also the opportunity that I ended up buying the company. And now since 10 years running Magicplan and trying to kind of evolve it to where we want to end.
Thanks so much for watching Breaking Through the Wall, a podcast sponsored by SERVPRO Team Wall. Of course, SERVPRO Team Wall is available to help 24/7 with all of your restoration needs. So whether it be water, fire, mold, cleaning, or full construction services, SERVPRO Team Wall is there to help you. So give us a call if you need us. But for now, let's get back to the podcast. No, that's awesome. So how do you like that jump to buying the company? Are you like, you know, like, did you know those guys or whoever the developers were, the original people that had Magicplan? Like, you had a working relationship with them, I assume, and there was talks at that time. And at that time, how, like, I know what Magicplan looks like now, and I know how many users there are, obviously a ton. What was the like landscape of that time? Like, how many active users when you take over Magicplan? Do you know how many active users there were at that point?
So, I mean, Magicplan was kind of this public success quite early on because it was really novel to use your iPad to do that, right? So there were lots of users, and I mean, that's only by that I had the opportunity to get to know it, right? Because it was kind of quite distributed, but then it was a tiny company. I mean, it was 7 people at the time, and it was, kind of tiny number of people, very little revenues, and very little, let's say, professional users. You had lots of people, and you still have today, just normal people. Basically, you have 2 cases. Either people move and they want to see if their furniture fits. That's what still people are using it. Or actually people wanting to prepare themselves for doing a renovation project and talking to contractors, right? So we still have that today. And that is fine. But really what kind of the conversation with the founders was also, hey, we are too broad in terms of what we're doing as a company. We want to be more focused. And that's what attracted them as well, kind of like me coming in because I really had a purpose and a mission of what I wanted to achieve with the product, which is really kind of like run my full project efficient from start to the end, right? I want to do kind of like the take-in. I want to support the estimating, but actually as well, that should kind of like hand over into billing and just closing off the job and basically kind of doing the final handover document to the tenant or to whomever, or to the insurance company for getting that stuff paid. So I had that approach, and they kind of thought that was interesting because they were a little bit broader, not sure kind of how to tackle the market. And this is how our conversations kind of evolved and started, and what eventually led to me buying the company.
No, that's awesome. No, it's super cool to hear. So let's jump into the application itself, right? To dive in a little bit more with Magicplan. So, like, was there a moment after you buy it and you take over as CEO that you're like, what is the initial plan that you see when you take over the company? Are you like, what is your initial thoughts? What are your goals? What did that look like in like regardless of short term or long term? Like, what did that look like? I'm sure you obviously, that's a big purchase. It's a big switch in your professional career. It's a big risk. Like, what are you looking at doing at that point?
Yeah, so it's you can see it from both sides. You can see it kind of like comforting, as in, okay, that vision still holds true, or you can say, question Andreas, okay, like what are you actually doing? But basically, the week after I bought the company, we worked on pumping out estimates. That was my goal, and that was really the first week. I was pretty clear we need to get kind of from the initial take-in towards this full estimating. And frankly, that is still what we're doing today, right? I think we are the fourth iteration now, but this was the plan, and bringing it to general contractors, craftsmen, having that solution that. I mean, when I was there, I was living in London, so it was the man in the van. In the US, it would be a guy in a truck, right? Yep. This is where your workplace is. And I wanted to build a solution that is suitable for that, right? Not necessarily, again, back in the day, desktop-based, but around your device that you have with you and in the environment that you're in. So on-site or in your truck. And that is what I wanted to build back then, and what we are still building today.
Sure. No, that's great. So I always love asking specifically entrepreneurs or people that own companies, because it's not always like this perfect world and everything works out, because there's always going to be problems and challenges and things that arise. So if you can kind of think back to like the early days, so in this space, was there anything that you like approached or that you guys faced that you felt like almost, killed the company, or like something that you took a risk on, or just some, early iterations, that you were like, oh my gosh, this is not going to work, or this is something that we really had to look at and face head on?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to tell you one specific story, but just overall, how technology has changed and shifted in the last 10 years, and then again, 3 years in our domain is just crazy. So the pace of speed and adaptation was intense. And I mean, specifically, I remember one moment in 2017, I was invited to an Apple press event in Toronto. So they hosted a huge event, me going on kind of like national TV to talk about our application, make use of the latest Apple technology and features and so on and so forth. And as I was about to go to the airport from Montreal, like my team member approached me, and at the time it was 7 people working there. And he said, 3 of us have been approached by Apple HR. They want to poach us. And that was like me then flying from Montreal to Toronto. I'm invited by Apple, but at the same time, like 3 of my team members got approached by their HR because they wanted to kind of like have people that know the technology, understand the technology. That was like really, I didn't know how to take that, to be honest. I mean, that was really, because I mean, if they had gone, that would have killed the company, right? At the same time, I have the chance to be kind of on national TV and talk about my product. So that was one moment very early on where I was like, "Whew, that could have gone wrong."
Right, you could have lost almost half the company in one swoop.
Yes.
No, that's wild. It's interesting to hear that. And I feel like, gosh, like with anyone I've ever talked to that kind of works in the application space, software space, I feel like that's such a prominent thing of where other companies are just looking to snatch people that have done other things that have been successful. So no, that's interesting to hear. What about when you really start, whether this is like 2014, 2015, 2016, was there anything or assumptions that you guys made with what you thought users would be, would be using the application for that you were completely wrong about? And I know you kind of talked about, there's kind of two sets of users, people that are working in the
Mhm.
construction operation space and then people, was there anything that when you guys, you were first rolling it out, it's starting to really grow. Was there anything that you thought something was going to happen assumption wise and it just didn't, or people surprised you with how they were using the application? Anything like that?
I mean, I, I I can go off on a tangent here, but like one app use case that no one had seen, but that was also before my time, but it is still present, is that you have crime scene investigators using the app for crime scene investigation. And that kind of like angle was surprising. I mean, now we have technical cleaning, which is kind of closer to restoration, and we have a significant user base there. So that was one, but to be honest, that was just also partly probably ignorance of the job profiles that are out there. But other than that, I mean, what what is surprising in one way is, which I would frame it, is we are loved and hated for the same thing, which is like Magicplan consciously makes some trade-offs to make it possible to create kind of like good outcomes in the field. And those trade-offs, some people love you for it and some people hate you for it. And that is a bit of a kind of weird situation, because if you go either side, you know that the other one is going to flip. So that is just one element that we sometimes sit there and yeah, just to be honest, don't necessarily know what to do, because we know we are going to make someone not happy. And that is always surprising, because it's also, when we read the reviews, it's like literally one is writing a raving review about what you're doing, and then the next one is trashing you for the very same thing. So that is,
Yeah.
that's a little bit hard to comprehend from time to time.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up. So let's talk about that with customer reviews and hearing from actual users that are using the application. How interactive are you with people that are using? And I know like your interactions with our, with SERVPRO Team Wall. Like how much are you guys like truly listening to what the customers are, the actual people that are using it out there? And do you take those requests and advice to make changes in real time, or what does that usually look like?
Yeah, I mean, on this one, kind of SERVPRO Team Wall, we're talking to you guys every week, and I think we kind of like shown that we really listen, and that's why we are out there training in person to get that feedback. But that is nothing new. It kind of cascades up. So we have our kind of suggestion board that we try to actively groom and work. And then, I mean, if you look in the App Store, again, because we have a broad user base, but kind of like a narrow customer focus, we have, I think, more than 200,000 people who voted us 5 stars and more, and they write reviews as well. So we obviously are looking at that. However, I mean, you can't satisfy everyone, and certainly not at the same time. So there needs to be trade-offs made in terms of what you do, how you do it, and when you do it. And this is what is kind of like our everlasting discussion internally, and what to do next for whom and how.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes total sense. I've got a selfish question for you because a lot of my background is in digital marketing
Mhm.
with SEO and SEM, and running Google ads and campaigns and things like that is kind of where I started, and I still do today.
Mhm.
And I just, thinking about like the evolution of the company and how taking it from where it started to where it is now and user base. And I don't know how involved you are in this, but as CEO, I'm sure you kind of have your hands in kind of every conversation in a way. When you guys first started, and even maybe talk about a little bit what you guys do today, how kind of did you develop your marketing plan from
Mhm.
an SEO standpoint, and then even an SEM, if you do those types of campaigns,
Mhm.
whether it's display and things like that? How did you kind of build those out, and what was kind of the initial ideas so that you guys were in the forefront when people were searching and looking for an application such as yourself? Obviously, there's other competitors and things like that. What did that look like? How involved were you? Or do you use, do you have an internal marketing team, or do you kind of use an external third party? What does that look like? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, we do have an internal marketing team. And they're doing a great job. They're really tech forward as well, which
Awesome.
I mean, personally, I think you figured by now that I'm a kind of technology embracing person.
Sure.
So I just enjoy doing this. And I think it boils down to building that product, right? And this is what is carrying us since the inception, but continues to carry us. And this is what we kind of pay huge attention to, and where we cycle through the customer feedback. But you really need to have a product that kind of, yeah, excites people to use. And I think that's what we are observing, and is accessible. And that is still today one key growth driver for us. Having this attention on the product, the experiences there, is one of the key growth drivers. Then, kind of like talking more specifically about the industry, I mean, the restoration industry is kind of like a tight knit network, right? So you want to tap into those networks, and that's being, I mean, through talking to you in a podcast that's happening, going to the industry events, and the like. This is, I think, you need to tap into that network, which I think you can, and that is what we want to do and what we want to be a part of, to have those conversations.
Absolutely. No, totally agree. Well, you just kind of brought up technology. So let's talk about AI a little bit. Because
Yeah,
it's very
sure.
prominent in my world, and I'm the same with you. Like I've always been intrigued with it. We were talking kind of off camera, and like a lot of my background has been in music, and
Mhm.
AI and technology has been a huge driver recently. And it's been a huge discussion with using AI with songwriting and all these different things. And I spend a lot of time writing songs
Mhm.
for myself and other artists. And it's just this big conversation that comes up. And some people love it. Some people hate it. Some people think you're cheating the artistic integrity and all these different things. And I
Mhm.
know in your world, I'm sure AI comes up all the time. So
Mhm.
what does that look like in the current scope of today with Magic
Mhm.
Plan, and how do you utilize it? And then, as we've discussed throughout this conversation of how much just technology changes so rapidly fast, and I mean, no more than today, it's just
Mhm.
crazy how things change from day to day. What does the integration with AI look like with Magic Plan? How do you utilize it? What do you foresee in the future with it?
Mhm. Cool. I mean, just AI, it's those two letters, but there's so much more behind it. So
Yep.
Magic Plan was basically incepted on AI and computer vision, because then again, that was the initial idea 2010, is using your phone to capture the world around you to do whatever. And now we are more specific about that. But so Magic Plan has been using computer vision since its inception. We brought the first kind of like trained AI models onto the device, in 2018, I believe, 2017 or 2018, which was a big thing because, I mean, everyone is reading about now the power, how power hungry those AI models are, and the big
Yep.
data centers and so on and so forth. And I mean, this is today, and those are large language models. That's something different. But back in the day, our engineers, they worked really, really hard on making it possible for computer vision models to run on those devices back in the day, like 8 years back. You don't have specialized chips. You don't have like
Yep.
any of this. And you had to, or we wanted to make that happen because we said, well, um, the way you should spot it, the device should spot it, right? So you label your doors, you label your windows, you label your plumbing, you label your plugs, like all of those structural stuff that you interact with. The device should see it just the way you should do, because then you don't need to do it yourself. And that is what we want, again, to help people in the field really run an efficient and lean project. So this is kind of like how we go back thinking about AI, and like all of the different technologies in between this, just pure computer vision and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go into everything because that's like a 10-hour podcast and we will lose quite a few people. So, but that is really interesting. And then now, obviously, what have we seen in the past years is come this different angle of those language models. And I just want to make one statement, because again, at a show in 2017 or 2018, I said, well, chatbots were a thing at the time. I was like, a bit suspicious, because our AI models, it's like 640 by 640 pixels, and you can compute that. But then if you think about language, it's like 2,000 words, and you can infinitely combine those. And that's just like, there's a power dynamic there, and we've seen that, and we see the energy that's involved in this, whatever. So, but now we have it quite a bit sooner than I had anticipated, and many others, but we have it, which is great. And now you can make sense to kind of all of that along the project, right? I think initially we were about the intake being super supported by AI and computer vision. Right. And now I think you should think about it like along the project lifecycle. You can have AI look into this and really support this. And those are kind of like how I think about it broadly, and then I'll leave it to you whether you want to go into more detail or not. And this is also, I mean, how we are translating it and using this for Magicplan.
No, that's awesome. I could also talk to you about this for probably 2 hours, because I'm so intrigued by all that. I think we may lose all our listeners, but no, I think that's super cool. And I think it's cool to think of it in a practical use, because I think a lot of times, and I see it all the time, people will start talking about AI integration and how they want to use it, but I don't know if it's fully understood a lot of the time. So it's nice to hear someone talk about someone that's using it for their company, for the greater good of people, but also like finding the right usage for it and not overdoing it, and not trying to make something to do something that it's not really used for. So I think that's really cool. Thanks so much for watching Breaking Through the Wall, a podcast sponsored by SERVPRO Team Wall. Of course, SERVPRO Team Wall is available to help 24/7 with all of your restoration needs. So whether it be water, fire, mold, cleaning, or full construction services, SERVPRO Team Wall is there to help you. So give us a call if you need us. But for now, let's get back to the podcast. Well, let's talk about you. We'll kind of get away from tech. We'll talk about more of you just being the CEO. What is your favorite, we'll kind of bring spirits up, right? We'll get back to it, but what is your favorite part of being CEO of Magicplan?
Well, the favorite part is that I can build what I kind of dreamt up. I mean, again, we started this I started on this in 2013. We are still at it 13 years later, and to be honest, I think it's going to be another 13 years that I'm going to do this. So this is just cool to be able to be building something, and then. I mean, I told you in the beginning, or I didn't tell you, but like I was off into the car world, and one reason for that is, to be honest, we do a lot of repair and maintenance in Germany as well, kind of like just a broken toilet flush. I didn't know I wanted to do this construction, whatever. And now I love it. And it is because we can really build something that is meaningful in the field day in and day out. And that is what this kind of role and job allows me to do. And then obviously I get to have an amazing team that we have building that together, and kind of like inspiring the team, like our dev team, but then also kind of broadly our field staff in the family business in Germany. They also see kind of this tech forward thinking, and they like it, right? and they also, quite frankly, demand it. I mean, just to go off there, but we are doing kind of an employee net promoter score with our employees back in Germany. And we received this year, I think, 670 individual comments that translated into a document kind of like 45 pages long. And I read through this, and people are asking for support into their day-to-day operations and running. And that's what we want to do, right? So this is really what makes me happy and kind of drives me every day. And to be honest, like in my order of 3 companies, 4 kids, too many cars, I need to admit, I most of the time I think about how can we improve work stuff and that, and so that I just enjoy that, and I can do it, and so that's why I love it.
Sure. No, it's fascinating. I'm always so intrigued and interested in kind of hearing how people that are forward thinking, operate and what the outlook is. And it's cool to hear you kind of break it down and the things that make you successful. So super cool. Last tough question for you before I get into some fun stuff to end it. Being CEO, how do you personally handle tough decisions in uncertainty? Because I always like to ask this question because I don't like the tough conversations sometimes. So I selfishly like to ask this: how do you kind of handle that as CEO, whether it's with employees or whether it's with maybe you're talking with developers or other companies or media outlets or things like that? Kind of how do you approach that?
I mean, quite frankly, I'm working with a coach now who's helped me tremendously because I think no one likes the tough stuff, and helping reflect on that that gives you the confidence to actually follow through with it. So this helped me tremendously in the past year. And then the uncertainty bit, just from my personality, like I'm not risk averse, so the uncertainty bit is just not something that's high on my list. For the better or worse, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't have bought the company and done all of this, right? So that is just not, for me personally, that's not high on my agenda. But kind of like working through that tough stuff, it's working with a coach helped me a lot there because it kind of, with the tough stuff, you try, or I do on this one, try to push it out, but that really brings accountability back to yourself, right? It's just a person. I mean, it's a great person, but it's just a person who you're going to speak to again in a week's time or so, and that makes you move. Not necessarily the person makes you move actively, but just okay, I'll have to answer him, but actually I'll have to answer me. And then what do I want implemented? And that's what you got to do.
No, I love that. Accountability is always great, especially someone that's leading a company. So no, that's awesome to hear. Well, you've made it through the tough part. We're going to move into some fun stuff. So I'm just going to ask you some favorites. I don't want you to think too hard. Just whatever comes top of mind, you can just, get after it. So you've talked about cars a lot. So I have to ask, what is your, it's 2 parts on this one. What is your favorite car of all time? And maybe you have it. The second part would be, what is the favorite car that you own?
Yeah.
And maybe that's the same answer.
Yeah, no, it's not, and it likely won't be. So as mentioned, I started off in Porsche Leipzig, and when I walked from the parking to the factory floor, every morning I would hear the then new Carrera GT being run in on the racetrack. And that sound is just, it's going to stay with me forever. So this is kind of my dream car that is out there. But yeah, so, and then again, what is a car that I have is a 2006 BMW M3.
Okay.
And I had this, just super cliche, but I had this in my kind of kid's bedroom, and the ad in German said kind of engineer, and in the German word engineer there's the word genius, and they highlighted that genius part, and that was on my wall while studying for high school and so on and so forth. So a year back I fulfilled that dream and bought that M3 of that era.
That's awesome. I love good marketing too. I love the
Yeah.
genius being an engineer. So that's awesome. Favorite food?
Mhm. we, I I eat anything, literally anything. And one cuisine which just I think has an amazing variety is Japanese.
Okay.
From a katsu to a sushi to the soups to whatever. It's just like
Yep.
so many different flavors, so many different aspects. So that is like I would pick Japanese, but
Yeah.
like it's not sushi and it's not one, it's like
Sure.
everything that there
All of
is.
it. No, that's
Yeah.
super cool. That's like full circle here. Our first episode that we ever did was with a Major League Baseball player, Mike Ballman, and he was going to Japan. So we talked a lot about Japanese cuisine and lifestyles living there because he was living in Tokyo. So no, very cool. So that's cool to hear. Favorite vacation spot that you've been to?
Favorite vacation. So I'm a mountain guy. I'm originally from Munich in Germany. So we live close to the Alps. So kind of like skiing, hiking, whatever. Sunrise on a mountain is really it for me. Sitting there, watching
Yeah.
the sun, the kind of like skyline, having a beer. That is kind of my
Yeah.
vacation setup.
All right. No, I like that a lot. I've talked about music a little bit. Do you have a favorite band or musician of all time?
No, I kind of in our school yearbook, they would call my music taste as kind of trash to everything. I'm really indistinct there.
Yeah,
So there is nothing to single out.
I like it. That's totally fine. Do you have a favorite book?
Do I have a favorite book? I read a lot. I basically read day in and day out. Much newspapers and magazines, to be honest, more than that books. Um, a favorite book, nothing that I could single out. It's pretty much always the last one that I'm reading.
Whatever. Yeah.
Um,
No, that's fine. And then last one of favorites. Do you have a favorite TV show or movie that you like to binge watch, or something that maybe it's even something recently?
yeah, I mean, on this one, I hinted at it, and it's super cliche, but I mean, I'm the Too Fast and Too Furious
Yeah.
first episode. Gone in 60 seconds. Also, I mean, don't quote me on it, but those were Bad Boys. Obviously, I mean, those were the movies that were also formative, kind of for
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
growing up, and I'm fulfilling every cliche there, but that's
That's
just
it's so
not.
it's such a funny thing, and I like talk to my kids about it who are teenagers, and it's like what a movement in the 2000s specifically. Like for I'm in high school, and it's like people putting on the spoilers and just Fast and Furious coming out and all these car movies, and it was just like such a what a time, like because it's so
Mhm,
hard to explain to
mhm,
kids now like what that was like in like 2003, 2004, 2005, 2000. Like it was such a thing where sports cars and souping up your cars and making all these modifications were such a big deal,
mhm.
and it's like not you just don't see anymore. And it's like what a wild ride that was. So no, I mean I remember seeing all those movies that you just listed in theaters, and it's
Yeah,
funny thinking how like what a big movement that was. So it's funny to bring
yeah,
that up. So,
yeah.
no, that's awesome. And last question I will ask you, we do this with everyone that we bring on here that have success in their field. For you being a CEO of, obviously a tech application, someone that wants to jump into that field or has aspirations to
Mhm.
be a CEO of, of an application or a tech company, what is your best piece of advice that you can give?
I mean, what I did, I'm not a tech person. I'm a tech embracing person, but I'm not a tech person. So I partnered up with someone that understood that, and I could have not gone it alone. 100% not. I would have been a complete failure, and we would not sit here and talk. So it's it's cliche, but it's true for me as well. I needed a partner to do it, and I have that partner to do it. So this was kind of the key bit for me. Find your team to do it, and then you can go a long way.
No, I love it. I think finding the right people that fit, that all are kind of going in the same direction to find that success is awesome. And it's cool to hear that you leaned on that to make Magicplan so successful. So Andreas, we appreciate you coming on today with Breaking Through the Wall. It was awesome to hear your story and kind of hear some of the thoughts about Magicplan and, you know, what you guys have done and where you're going and all these different things. And we appreciate what you've done in the restoration space and helping people all throughout various continents as well. So thank you so much, man. We will talk to you soon, I am sure. Everyone else, we will catch you guys next time on Breaking Through the Wall.